Hello friends and like-minded people. You are with Talks on the Way of Wisdom. Today we will talk about who is Buddha, who is Siddhartha, and how the great teacher creates a way. For modern man, Buddha is a spiritual teacher who created a teaching developed as Buddhism by his students and followers. The historical figure was born around 560 BC as a prince with the name Siddhartha Gautama. In the Buddhist tradition, it is accepted that Siddhartha is worshipped as the first Buddha in a series of historical figures. Buddha is a name given to the prince when, after years of contemplation and spiritual struggle, he awakens to enlightenment. This awakening is believed to be the beginning of the teaching of Buddhism. The word, Buddha, comes from the root, bud, to be awake, to be aware, to know. From the same root it comes the word, buddhi, whose meaning in different contexts means intelligence, mind, vision, wisdom. Literally, Buddha means the awakened, the enlightened. The etymological origin of the term from Sanskrit is a combination of two separate words, buddhi and dada. Buddhi means intellect and dada means above or beyond. In this sense, we can claim that the meaning of the word Buddha is awakening above intellect. Buddhism teaches us that Buddha has no form, that he is manifestation of perfection. For Buddhism, Buddha is a spiritual title and nickname. It refers to the attainment of a state of supreme intelligence. In literature, Siddhartha Gautama is also found as Gautama Buddha and Shakya Muni, or Sakya Muni. Siddhartha is the birth name and it means, the one who achieves his goal, and Shakya Muni, the sage of the Shakya clan. Another meaning of Muni is silence, from where Shakya Muni is translated as the silent monk of the Shakya clan. It shall be taken into account that the primary sources for the life of Siddhartha Gautama are a set of different and contradictory biographies. However, from the many sources, stories and legends, two tendencies have outlined for the character of Siddhartha. The first tendency presents Siddhartha as a silent monk who, after years of asceticism and contemplation, achieves the awakening of Buddha. Siddhartha becomes one whole with Buddha as mind. Thus, the substance of the spiritual teacher Buddha and the physical man Siddhartha turn into one and the same mind. Buddha, who has always existed in the world, has no beginning and end, and Siddhartha, with the life of an earthly man. The second tendency for the character of Buddha is of Siddhartha the sage, of Siddhartha the secular and social man who, as an awakened Buddha, taught and preached through narratives and talks the population that inhabited South Asian territories. Although these two tendencies are of the same personality, they have two different aspects of manifestation of knowledge. In one of the tendencies, of the silent monk, through contemplation Gautama acquires spiritual knowledge to attain Buddha awakening, while through the second tendency, the awakened Buddha does public work of sermons like the social man. From this point of view, an explanation and difference can be sought for the spirituality of Buddha as master and the spirituality of his attainment as nirvana. In this sense, we may mention the maxim of the teaching, Way of Wisdom, concerning the way and work of the great persons and masters, that history is made by the will of Caesar, but is always preceded by the prayer of a priest. Buddha, who lives in Siddhartha as a social man, as a sage with spiritual will, as Caesar of wisdom, made history followed by hundreds of millions and professed by Buddhists in the Akal way, gracious truths, the idea of the middle way, etc., ethic, morality and laws given. Then in the so-called sutras, this story of the professing of Buddhism as a religion continues to this day and will continue in the future. When studying the life of Siddhartha, we must bear in mind that he was for 7 years, between his 28th and 35th year, an ascetic, silent monk, contemplator, supplicant who sought, called and eventually sheltered Buddha as a spirit in the man Siddhartha. However, when we look at this story beyond time and space, when we ask ourselves how to contact Buddha today, it is logical to ask ourselves the questions: can the supplicants of Buddhism reach Buddha's intelligence? Can supplicants of other teachings attain Buddha's intelligence? Can every person become Buddha? Although the short answer is yes. Everyone will sooner or later reach Buddha as an awakening. The essential questions to be answered are related to this: how to acquire spiritual knowledge for the awakening of Buddha. How can one upgrade rational and intellectual knowledge to ascend to heaven, but without losing mind and understanding? Therefore, trust can be sought in the very spirit of Buddha, to look and see that the history of Siddhartha is not only memory. The life of Siddhartha, of the personality of Buddha, after he left this world is not only a memory, but a spiritual imprint and a reality that is alive even after the death of the person. Buddha's teaching is not just notes in sutras and books of thinkers repeating what he said. Buddha is a spirit that still awakens today. And since we claim that Buddha is still alive today, it is logical to ask where this spirit is. Where is this reality? It is very difficult to give imagery and verbality in the answer to the question, but we could ask ourselves through our personal experience what happens when we express a thought. How do our emotions and desires respond to our thinking? How do our companions react to our thought? How does thought reflect in our nervous system, and it excites electrical impulses that control organ functions and body movements? Even if we only take 1 hour thought, we may wonder what happens to it while we are alive. And we may also ask ourselves what happens to it when we leave this world. So, we cannot limit the spirit to mere presence in the visibility of space. But we can say that spirituality can be present in space, through the personality of the awakening person. In this train of thoughts we may seek an answer. How does Buddha manifest after the Siddhartha personality has passed away from this world? Thank you for your attention. See you soon.